or you can just say, I don't care and do all defaults. Yeah, in the back of this machine, that's hard to show here, but from the webcam, I've got a quad port network card installed here that is high compatibility with pfSense. It's an old Intel Pro 1000 PT. But yeah, that's intentional. The majority of pfSense really likes the Intel stuff. You can use Realtek and pretty much anything with Broadcom, but Intel stuff will give you the best compatibility.
I'm going to make everyone nauseous here it's online, but that's okay.
Oh, well,
I've just been tangling my cord here.
This is probably wanting to get into the console, come to think of it.
There we go.
Here.
Oh, you want to see this? You know, probably not. This is a brand new machine, but you can.
I'll just steal my console back though,
Oh, okay.
because I got putty over here.
Boy, there you go.
There we go.
I have not installed anything hardly since I just got this
is
thing.
running off of the serial console. So one of the advantages to this is being that it was built with the intent. Yep, there it is. Being that it was built with the intent of using no, sorry, I was saying being that it was built with the intent of using I'm trying to find the setting here. There it is. Being that it was built with the intent of being a firewall, they kind of thought most people aren't going to probably want to. Most people aren't going to have a monitor hooked up there all the time. So one of the default versions you can install, you can just use a standard serial cable or USB serial or anything. So what happened is the reason it's not showing up here is it took over on my machine here, and as you can see, it's waiting to see what I want it to do. Actually, is there a way I can put this up on the
Yeah.
let me make it easier to see here.
Let's see on output on that. I can either give
I
you
have
a
HDMI.
HDMI. Here we go.
That's it. That's easier
Up here.
because it's a tiny little box.
Yeah.
Oh.
And go source. Oh, past it.
And
There it is.
okay. Oh.
And
See, so what's nice is that from this point on, as you can see, the entire thing is a walkthrough. You just select, just like any Linux distro, you just select your thing. Being that FreeBSD does include ZFS support by default, one of the options is to install ZFS under a firewall. So you can have a bulletproof file system running a bulletproof firewall, if you so choose. Or you can use a standard, just a standard BSD partition. And then your options, unfortunately, this really isn't that easy to see. The options are pretty straightforward, nothing really specific. Just use the whole disk. And then that's it. I mean, what's really nice is once you get it installed, the entire thing is web driven. The only thing you have to set up from that point is just define your LAN interface, and that's it. Then the machine is ready to go from that point on. Now they've added a setup wizard. Originally, they did not have that. Originally, when it's set up, you had to go through and walk through everything on its own, one at a time. Now it'll do just like any of your standard home routers. It'll say, hey, I'll assume you haven't done anything with this before, so let's set up a subnet, let's set up your admin password, and it'll walk through the whole step. But the one really nice advantage is being that it uses the serial. I no longer need the monitor at all. I don't need the keyboard. I don't need any of this. So I can, the thing will sit there and yell at me that I unplugged it, but it doesn't require anything. It wants to know, are we done? We are done. And it'll reboot here. And I'm done with everything. So, and then
mouse on that for some reason.
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't know. There's probably some software tool out there for be fixed focus.
Technology's not used.
Hmm?
It's a monitor, you could probably just connect to Zoom at your screen.
Yeah.
Here.
So how many Ethernet ports do you have on that box? Two?
If
or
you count,
three?
well, if you count the integrated one, 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the integrated one you really wouldn't want to use.
Yeah.
It would be fair on this, but not not the best, because it's not a hardware offloaded network interface.
Mhm. So you have 4 on the
Mhm.
yeah.
4 full-blown gigabit connections with a hardware offload.
That's
So this should pick up a console.
so you with pfSense you use it as a transparent firewall. Then,
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have one port designated as outside, one inside, or you have multiple inside ones.
Yeah, and what's nice too is you can even do things like, are you familiar with the concept of router on a stick
Oh,
for intra VLAN routing? You can actually use, so you don't actually need 2 ports if you have you don't actually need 2 ports if you have a switch or something that can do VLANs. You
right,
can
yeah.
actually come in on one VLAN and then
go out right
back out that same interface and then basically fork at the switch.
Mhm.
What's going on with this thing?
Switch it to the to
It's not cooperating like always.
Programming does that.
Oh. Operating system not found.
Oh.
What's it talking about?
yeah, because what
Press
I
the any key apparently.
on mine at work, I had 3 ports, one incoming, one outgoing, and a management port. The management port was the only one that had an IP bound to it.
Ah.
I could transfer files on that machine that way.
Okay. Maybe.
Didn't boot.
I'll just boot it off the
Thumb drive.
drive. Huh. Being weird apparently. Apparently, okay. So apparently, there we go. Let's see. This should be the. Yeah, it sees my phone too connected, which is part of something very interesting to show here, if it'll cooperate. Yeah, my phone's connected via USB.
Can it use your phone as a data network?
Yes, I can actually, pfSense will let you do Ethernet over serial.
Oh.
So I have the ability, oh, cool, here it is.
Turning it into a hotspot or?
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah, I actually have used that. Okay, apparently I've got to reinstall it. It decided it doesn't want to. What's going on here, but whatever. Give it a shot. Not sure what's going on, but whatever. Let it do its thing here. I think by some chance, I think it's actually writing to the USB stick,
Oh,
but it doesn't matter. It's a demo. Yeah, it'll run on USB. It'll run on. You could even pixie boot the thing if you had a sophisticated setup and you just wanted to, if you had like an FTP server, you could pixie boot the thing and it'll run. It's just like pixie booting Linux or anything.
So for Pixie Boot, do you have to have a centralized server?
Yes, you have to have a server that's running TFTP. Mhm. It's basically like the way you do IP phones. Same idea. Those are pixie boot technically, I guess. Well, technically being a strong word. All right. Let's see. Now this should reboot. Okay.
oh, syncing disks.
Now we have what looks to be exactly what we expect. Oh, good. Yes, it looks like good now.
So the whole time you would just like, not even.
Yeah, Yeah, it's actually the live console. I don't have the keyboard. The keyboard's plugged in because it was being a pain, but the keyboard is no longer required.
Yeah.
The only thing you can't do from that is okay. Apparently, it still thinks that there's nothing on this. So let me do this again. I think that's what we need. I think I had the wrong disk. Try that again. If not, this might be the shortest presentation ever.
So PF Sense is available under, where did you get the?
pfsense.org.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
right
actually,
under
if any of you guys have heard of the firewall on NetGate, they're actually the guys who developed this. It originally was, so long ago, there was a project called MonoWall, which was a FreeBSD firewall that took off as a kind of, it was built for those little tiny integrated appliances, like the Soakers boxes and Alex and all those little embedded things that you do for industrial machinery. And then that took off, but it was built around low quality, low capacity hardware, and it had very specialized requirements. So PF Sense was a fork of that project that was designed for using commodity PC hardware. You didn't need specialized NICs, you didn't need specialized stuff, and they also got rid of the really complicated boot configuration. They went to their own proprietary thing, which made it much easier. I think there's XML driven, if I remember. It's basically a gigantic XML file called config.xml. So
Yeah, Linux format issues 280 to 282. See a tutorial on.
You know the exact issue something. You know the exact issue numbers for that.
Well, I call it PDF numbers.
Okay.
Perusing a lot easier.
So you're running version 2.6? Is
yeah,
that the
2.6.
current?
This is brand new.
They started at 279.
Let's maybe
Get it right.
this out there should be. Now we should have something working. Not well.
I don't know if I can
Really?
get the.
No, it's-
Demo gods do not like.
yes, they
So-
are.
So will this run on a Raspberry Pi without too much trouble?
No, sadly, the reason it won't run on a Pi is because they don't support ARM on the Pi. They
Oh,
support ARM inside of their own appliances,
oh,
but not. And actually, that's something actually I wanted to work on. There we go, BTX. So that's the loader. But that's actually something I've wanted to work on too. Is getting into more into like the messing around with projects. I want to try to actually port the BSD kernel because they already have a BSD kernel for ARM.
mhm.
So what I actually wanted to do was see if I could port the PF Sense kernel using all their standard make files
Mhm.
and see if you can get it to run. And then the rest of the stuff is just web code. It's PHP and whatever else, So it's not like a lot of that stuff would be, hard to figure out. Here we go. So we're not going to set up VLANs. I don't know why all of a sudden it's making this impossible to see. So, I
Would you want to switch to?
There we go. So you guys can't see anything. So normally it's a lot more friendly with the text, but as you can see, it's really super tiny down there. It wants to know what I want to do. So in this particular case, I'm telling it what my interfaces are. So it's got a really nice thing. So if you have, in my case, 4 NICs, I don't know which one's which. Which one's NIC 0 through 3. What I can do is I can hit A and then plug the cable in, and it looks for a state change.
Mm.
And it will say, and then what I do is I say, okay, find it, and it says, I think I found it. So, and then, in this case, it's it's being a little funny with I'm not sure why it's being that way. But I want to just do RE. In this case, it's just RE0. And then, yeah, and then I can tell it to go ahead. And and what's nice is you can always, once you get into the actual boot menu, you can always reconfigure everything. So if all of a sudden you go, oh shoot, I meant to use a different NIC, or I want to use a different interface, or that interface is bad, I need to reassign it. You can do everything. You're not, you don't have to reinstall the whole thing to remap your interfaces, which is really, yeah, I don't know what's going on with
Just
that.
update the bottom line, but not scroll the screen.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on.
That's probably.
Yeah. Reset terminal, maybe? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't know. It's never done that for me before.
We're fine at home, man.
Yeah, exactly. But ain't that how it always is, though? Flow control, I don't think that really matters in this case.
It's all right, I feel your pain. Been there, done it.
Yeah, you try it, and you go, it's totally gonna work, and then you go, oops, apparently not. There we go. I don't know what changed, but now it's scrolling. Whatever. Yeah, but see, as you can see, it's starting web configurator, starting firewall, so it's just going through and it'll do that too. It'll let you know.
That is
And
awesome.
there's your basic menu right there for configuring all of your interfaces. So in this case, what I can actually do now that you can see it properly, I can hit 1 for assign interfaces. And then it says, hey, I only see one interface on here. What do you want to do? Which that in itself is a problem because it's telling me it doesn't see any of the other interfaces.
Huh.
That's a problem.
Does it need something plugged into it to see it?
No, that card should work, but now I've got questions whether or not it does work. Well, we'll pretend it does. So we'll just use the integrated NIC on the back. So what you do is the NIC was unplugged, and I told it to auto detect, and it said, okay, if you want me to do auto detect, plug it in now, and then hit enter. And it says detected link interface on RE0. So it says, hey, I saw that go up. You must want me to use that interface. So now there are no other interfaces, sadly. So I don't know what its deal is with the.
So this is acting like a server, and you have multiple interfaces on it.
Yeah. I'm not sure what's going on with that card though. That's really weird. That card should work and it's not. Possibly, I really would be ashamed if something was wrong with it.
Did it maybe get unseated?
Yeah, it's possible. And then
Drivers for that.
Oh, it-
it should. I mean, it's into the gig. It should be supported. That's just really strange. But what's going on with that? Yeah, kind of hard to show it off. I don't have a second NIC.
So why don't you reset your card and start over?
Hmm?
Why don't you just reset your
Yeah,
card and
okay.
start over?
I don't have a screwdriver though.
Oh.
Anyone got a screwdriver? That's the problem here.
Everything is fully equipped. Fancy schmancy.
Yeah, that's, I have tools in the car probably.
Phillips. I'm like doing a little hardware hacking in the middle of a restaurant.
You might wanna drop the power before you do anything.
Oh,
Nah,
Oh, yeah.
do it live, makes it more fun. Sparks and arts.
Sure. Unless you're the one getting sparked at heart.
Where's the screw
Right
again?
in the back here.
PFs and CE.
I mean, if in a pinch, if it's a problem
Oh,
with my
memory
little,
stick
could be a
serial.
problem with my little bracket that I made too.
We'll see. Figure it out.
So what I'll do is I'll just take the bracket off. I have to, I'll just.
So on their distributions, they have mem stick
Yep.
versions and just a regular ISOs.
Actually, can I see the former timer? I'm gonna pop this bracket off. I'm wondering if the bracket may not be seating well enough. So
Yeah. Can you pop it?
just got a single screw right there. And then I'll just drop it in and listen to the slots is dirty or something.
Serial.
Too.
ADI, what's the ADI?
That's for their stuff, their integrated appliances. Yeah, it's a short little screw, so it
It'll probably come off easy.
well, the bracket should just pop. There you go. I can screw it. All right, let's try that one more time.
Will the memory stick version run if you load it
There we go. Let's try that. All right. Put this over here again.
So the one that's on your memory stick, is that 2.60
Yep.
release
Yeah, it's
AMD?
the 2.6 edition. I'm
Okay,
gonna see if it's picking up that card now. Intel EHCI, something. Figuring LAN interface. Yeah, this always takes a little bit of time anytime the machine boots. I think that's one of the reasons they added the little chirp to let you know when the firewall is passing traffic.
5160. So there's oh, that's the shelf. I see. Yeah, well, so actually, the memstick version would work fine just a home firewall.
Mhm.
Just
Well, the
plug that
memstick
in.
version is basically the standard USB installer. They
Yeah.
used to have an ISO,
Uh,
but they don't do that anymore because most machines don't have,
CD
ISOs.
drives.
Yeah, or most machines, unless you're doing like a firewall.
Yeah.
Or not a firewall, virtual machine as a firewall.
So that's why they're running the
It's trying to. Yeah, this always takes, this kind of stuff always takes a couple of minutes for it to start, because it's got dozens of services that it tries to start up
Oh.
and boot. And if this machine's got 8 gigs of RAM and it's a I think dual core, so it's got plenty of gusto for a firewall.
Mhm.
I mean, I could probably run full gig through this and still not have it skip a beat. There we go. Starting web configurator, configuring firewall. Let's see if those interfaces show up now. No. Great. So that card's probably dead or something. Great. Static electricity. Always a problem. All right then. Okay.
Does that have to be enabled in the BIOS, maybe? In the BIOS of that machine, do you need to enable?
Pretty sure, but I got a way around this.
Okay.
So this is what we'll do. So please enter the parent interface. Okay, we'll do VLAN tag 10. Parent interface RE0. This will be for the LAN. And it's going to be VLAN tag. Nothing. That. Wait, what? It's really, oh, for the LAN interface RE 0.10. And then for the LAN, it must be RE0. There. I have dealt with less. I have done far greater challenges with less equipment. So, considering that it doesn't matter for the WAN interface, because I just need to show you. I just want to show you guys the LAN interface. I just told it whatever, make it a VLAN tag. Who cares? So, yeah. Do most of you guys? Do any of you guys run VLAN anything at home like that? Do you segment like IoT devices or anything?
I should, I don't.
Nah.
I'm lazy.
You gotta have at least a layer 2 capable
Yeah.
switch, if not 3.
Yeah, I think the one I have at home, fiber switch should have that.
So yeah, unfortunately, because of the kind of thing I told this to do, reassigning interfaces, it has to completely wipe out the firewall tables
Oh.
and everything and rebuild. So it takes a minute for it to get around to. As you can see, the firewall's kind of locked up for a minute because it's basically rebuilding its whole configuration. Which it doesn't do this every time. It's only when you do primal like remappings and things. But beyond that, it doesn't generally do this.
So the transparent firewall tables that you set up, what ports you want open and
Yeah,
closed.
and this is a full-blown firewall. So this isn't your little cheap
Yeah, right.
Linksys, firewall. This I can set up. I can even fingerprint packets with this.
Oh.
It's not quite deep packet inspection, but it is stateful packet inspection. So I can identify if I know like what the fingerprint of like an operating system is. I can say, okay, I don't want anything that's Mac to run over this from this interface or this address group. So if there's maybe a specific reason, like it's only servers, and all of a sudden you go, why is a Raspberry Pi showing up on my network? Something's wrong here. I can tell it to go away.
It just drops it through the interface.
Yeah, you can have, well, you can even have it reject and drop. So you can have it send a reply back that I'm not letting you through, or a TCP reset, or you can just have it just black hole packets.
Yeah.
Would it be better just black hole? Because you had a bad guy trying to get in and you let him know, oh, you reached.
It would depend on the circumstances. Like in the case of if you're blocking like ping on your WAN port, yeah, you just want it just to go nowhere. But there could be situations where maybe an application on your interior network, say like an ad server, you want to block, if you're going to block that IP address, you may want the client to not continue to try and just send a, nope, you're not getting there, and then basically bounce back off of it. And the thing gives up and tries. So here we go. So now that we've set up the interface, I can set up an IP address. So I tell it which interface. In this case, I'll just keep it simple, 192.168. 1.1, keep it, phone simple here. So it's driven by a CIDR mask, so you have to convert. If you guys know what CIDR mask is, you got to get the slash number off the thing. So like for a standard network at home, 192.168 network could be a /24, which is just 255.255.255.0. So, and in this case, we're not going to set up anything. We're not doing IPv6. We do need the DHCP server. And in this case, same thing. And this is sort of the wizard end of it, is it's saying, hey, what do you want to do for everything? So do you want to, that's just asking if when facing inside from the LAN, do we want to, have SSL enabled? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So now from here, I should be able to go to my laptop and do ipconfig /renew. And I should get an IP address. There we go. Should have attached. Yep, 100. So I can now then go to just 1.1. There's pfSense. Default password is admin. I believe it's admin pfSense. Yes. And then here's the wizard I was talking about. So welcome. What do you want to do? A lot of this is in here. If you want to use in a commercial setting, they do provide commercial support.
So what's that red warning at the top?
This is a step. Oh, it's saying that it's the default password. You really should change it.
Change your room up to.
Yeah, which oddly enough, one of the things it has you do is change it. So as you can see here, I can give it a name. So I can say pfSense, and then in this case, just using home.arpa. If you run any kind of anything that's Avahi or Bonjour or anything, you should never use .local. Because that is the domain that stuff uses. All of the MDNS, multicast DNS, it uses .local, so you can have a lot of collisions on things. So you should always, like I use at home, I use my internal, I use land mydomain.com. So I use a subdomain because then I own that domain on the outside. Yeah. So it works out like that. And then DNS servers, I can just do, whatever, it really doesn't matter. 4, might as well let Google know what I'm up to. And then here you can set, same thing, it has you set NTP. This can operate as an NTP server.
Nice.
And if you really want to get fancy, you could pipe in GPS time signaling. So if you want to run it as an actual like authoritative time server for say like a large network, it is capable. And then here it wants to know what we want to do for the WAN interface. So here I'll just leave that all alone because we're not gonna we're not gonna mess with WAN because I don't have an actual a WAN interface on the back, and then password, of course. You know, because password, I mean, what better password than password, right?
That's right.
No
Can't
one
forget
knows,
it.
yes.
And then here, now what it's doing is it's doing a web configurator reload. So here we go. And then normally you would be able to check for updates, but there are no updates because it's, 2
Just
days
got
old.
it.
And then here it's just saying, this is commercial software. What do you want to do? So, and then what I can do here now that we've got, now that we have the thing set up, is I can actually go to my phone and set up tethering on my phone. How? Hotspot tethering. Oh, USB tethering. USB tethering. So now my phone comes alive, and there we go. Available ports. UE0. I can go ahead and add that as another port. It just by default calls it optional one because it's neither. It's because PFSense treats it like it'd be a DMZ. It's not WAN, it's not LAN, and you can call it whatever you want. So I can go in here and I have to turn up the interface. So just to show you it again, you go here to configure the interfaces under interfaces assignments. But then in here, you'll have this little drop down box here. I'll actually get rid of this and show you. So here it said, here's my 2 ports. As you can see, VLAN 10 is what I just arbitrarily assigned to WAN, so it would just stop bugging me. And then this is the port I'm actually connected to. And then here it's saying, hey, you have another port that you can use. And normally you would just click this drop down box to get there, but in this case, there's only one. So I hit add. So it adds that new port, then I tell it to save it. And then along with that, while we're in here, you can also look at the other things you can do. Interface groups, these are used for tying interfaces into as a group. So you can make an entire group of interfaces subject to a firewall. So let's say anything that's an Office VLAN, because all VLANs are sub interfaces, you could sit there and say, okay, all of these cannot get to Quad 8. If you want to get rid of, say, Google DNS, you don't want them using non-company DNS. You could say all of these are subject to that rule. Wireless, if I had a Wi-Fi interface, this is where you would set that up with the interface, the type, the mode being like, GN, AC, FreeBSD tends to lag a little bit behind on wireless support, and they don't even recommend, even though they support wireless, they don't recommend you use wireless. They recommend that you use a separate appliance, a separate AP hanging off of it, because their drivers tend to be, like, to give you an idea, when AC was the newest Wi-Fi standard, they were just getting N into FreeBSD. So it tends to lag behind about 1 full generation. And that's because not a lot of people use Wi-Fi on a firewall, but you even have other things in here like VLANs. You have Q-in-Q, which is nested VLAN tagging. It has no need on a whole network. We use that in MPLS setups. Point-to-point protocol, if you need that. Generic route encapsulation, same thing. A lot of enterprise stuff. This one, though, does have use as bridges. So if I had all these 4 interfaces in the back were working, I could tie all of them together with a software bridge, and they all would be treated as one virtual switch, basically, like you do on like a Linksys switch. And then lags, link aggregation groups, so I can have redundant ports for, like, say, LAN and WAN and stuff. But dual WAN is a different thing. When this is just strictly talking about, I have 2 links going to something, and if one link gets cut off, it'll still take traffic over there, but it doesn't talk about having 2 split connections for, say, fiber and cable or something. That's a whole different can of worms. So in this case, because we want to get traffic moving, I went over here and I need to configure OPT1, and I'll just call this, phone, keep it simple for things. You have to turn the interface up. By default, the interfaces are not turned up because they don't know what you want to do with it. And then here you can select how you want to configure it. So this will be a WAN interface for me. So I'm going to tell it, pull from the phone. Give me what T-Mobile's giving me. Normally, you would configure that as such. I can block private networks and bogans. Private networks really is just nice because you don't want somebody who might be, say, someone connects to your home or your office, and they're trying to use another network to jump into your network. You can say, well, if it comes from a non-routable network, I don't want it on my WAN port. And then bogon networks are basically networks that just don't exist. They're networks that are like fringe IP addresses. But they recommend, if it's a WAN interface, that you turn those on unless you don't have a reason to turn them on. Like I've had situations like if you have like an upstream router and you have your cable modem, a router, and the pfSense, and that link between the routers is a private subnet, like a 192.168. You need to unblock private addressing, or the WAN interface won't be able to send its traffic upstream. So that's a situation where you would want that. So here we now have it set up, and then what I can even do here is I can go in. Oh, it kicked me out. Not that bad.
Get like timeout on it.
More or less, I think it's because it reset the interface, like it reset the configurator.
Oh, yeah.
What I can actually do now is I can even go in here now, because we don't have, this interface doesn't do anything. I can, instead of having to mess with the routing tables, I can just say, let's just not even worry about that interface, just turn it down. So now what'll happen is it will force routing over the phone. And I can even check that by looking at, all my diagnostics and such. But you can see here, status online via phones DHCP. So there we go. I am online. So I should be able. Let's see. Nope. Oh, DNS probe.
Check
Well-
the LAN one on you then.
Mhm.
You need to turn the LAN interface on?
No, it's on because that's how I'm getting. Maybe you're right. Well, no, I shouldn't have to, because the LAN interface is how I'm hitting the firewall, so it's enabled.
Oh, gotcha.
No, what I probably need is a DNS resolver is not. Oh no, it's on. Never mind. Because sometimes the DNS resolver is not. Well, we can do it this way too. Good old control panel. Do it this way. I'll just force it to use its own DNS. After settings, I'm sure everyone's painfully familiar with this kind of stuff. Let's see, whatever. Oops. Really? Task. Thank you, Windows. You're useless sometimes. Yeah. Bingo.
Network, yes.
Now I have network. Yeah, as you can see, the classic little, hey, you totally have network button lit up. So. And there we go. I am sitting,
good.
so I am currently routed, as you can see by the identifier here. I am
T-Mobile.
routing through my network. Now, depending on my signal quality and all that kind of stuff, you know how it is. It's actually, that's not bad.
Pretty
I've got 4 bars.
Yeah.
So I'm pulling in 230 megs sitting here with my
Phone.
PC and my phone.
That's amazing.
Mhm. So as you can see, but I mean, the getting set up, I mean, that's pfSense in a nutshell right there. So, and then from that point on, it gets, you go further down. So, you have all of your for example, here's your basic settings that you can configure, things like the host name, a lot of the things that the wizard showed, DNS servers, and you can add as pretty much as many as you want. So, and then here, this also would be if you wanted to use like Cloudflare or something, these are where you would do that. You can tell it right here to, override the DNS. You can say don't, in case, like, say your ISP pushes DNS out with their DHCP lease. You can say, no, I'm good. I don't want your servers. I want to use my own. And then here you can set how the DNS resolver behaves. So by default, the DNS, the server, the firewall will use itself as a DNS server to resolve its own queries. But there could be situations where you don't want that. You want the server to always ask something upstream, what's going on, because maybe you have like a corporate DNS server or something. You don't want it resolving and caching its own queries. And then themes, of course, what wouldn't be complete in this day and age without the dark mode theme. I mean, oh, that's disappointing. Where's the dark mode? Oh,
The dark side?
yeah, you probably have to log back in. That's
No.
probably what it is. But it's like, look at the dark mode. Oh, this is disappointing. But and then you have other things here. The routing. This is where
There it goes.
as you can see, this shows you what my default gateways are. So in this particular case, there is no other option, so it's only routing on my phone. But in the event that I had my WAN interface hooked up, what it would do is it would say, okay, well, this interface is up, this one takes priority, but then, oh shoot, this one's down. You plug your phone in and you can set the rules to override. What do I basically do a WAN? What do I do in the event that A is down? I go for B.
Are you seeing anything on your phone?
Phone. What do you mean?
Well, you
Data.
It's connected to your phone. I was wondering if you've seen anything.
No,
No, it's just a data modem.
no. It's right now. It's just acting as basically a USB Ethernet box. So, but here, yeah, I can say, what's the default gateway? I can say, what should be used. Static routes if you need something like that. If you're trying to have traffic always take a specific path, say like an SSH session, you maybe always want to use like an LTE modem you might have hooked up, or an out of band or something. There could be all kinds of modem if anyone actually still has one.
So if somebody tried to call your phone, would it work?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's a 5G, so it could support data and voice in tandem. This is one of the more fancy. This is one of the more fancy things. Here is all of the tools, all the packages that could be installed into pfSense to increase its functionality. So here you have Acme. Acme is used for Let's Encrypt. So right out of the bat, you can set up a plugin on this that will let you import a Let's Encrypt SSL certificate, so you don't have to do all the funny things with OpenSSL and make your own cert and certify it and install it. You can just use Let's Encrypt and be done with it.
Just out of curiosity, is there a reasonable content filter plugin?
Yes, well, the one that I use is, when you mean content filter, you mean like
WebSense kind of.
not really. There was for a little while, like Dan's Guardian kind of stuff, which was just your standard bad list blocking. But I don't believe that really is here anymore. I don't believe there is, at least.
Is there a place where in the menu system, I guess, you set up things like allow UDP from these IPs?
That's under the firewall. So,
Okay.
but yeah, see, I'm not going to really go over all these,
Okay.
but you can just see that there's there's numerous things available. This right here, this is the one that'll block more like Pi-hole style. So it'll block things like, you can give it a bunch of ad servers in a CSV file, and it'll start setting up. What it does is, like Pi-hole, it basically redirects them to nowhere. So it sets up a fake stub address and just forwards them to a black hole, like a dev null kind of thing. And then that causes the ad server to time out, and it just gives up and moves on. I blocked something like 50% of my traffic is garbage.
Garbage, yeah.
However, I've had a lot of false positives too, so it does require a look, depending on how aggressive you want to start stacking up the firewall rules, or not the firewalls, the filtering rules. I've had a lot of trouble where you start to really have problems. So it just depends on exactly what what your level of filtering is and how much time you want to put into it. You've got things like this too, like IDS, like Snort and Securata, or Circa, however you say it, Securita, which is actually what Ubiquiti runs on their little
Oh.
security gateways. They run Securita. So you got that, you've got Syslog, WireGuard right here, TINC and WireGuard are both two VPN things that can be used. Integrated, the thing already supports IPsec, OpenVPN, and L2 TP. So, and then they do, if you actually run something like Zabbix at home, which I don't even know anyone that does, but they have all the Zabbix clients and stuff. Not to mention, I think already has built in, you can have it already like email you when something goes wrong.
That's nice.
It does support Telegraph in that too. So you can get push notifications. You can set up users in here. The users actually come in later because you can actually do like, you can either use an LDAP server, or if you're not needing something so fancy, you can just set up local groups of local users to use for authentication over VPN. Here's the bulk of what you guys are asking about though. So the firewall right here is your most basic firewall. This is your line item driven firewall. So I go to, where is it? Oh, right here. So I can either add to the top of the list or the bottom of the list, and that would depend on what, but you can also, as you can see, move the rules around. So you're not completely, at the mercy of having to choose where they're going to go. So like I can sit here and I can set up here, and here's the block versus reject, as it says, hint, the difference between block and reject is TCP reset or port unreachable versus just dropping it. So block will just drop the packet. And I can say, okay, I don't want this, IPv6 to anywhere, whatever. Yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah, that's
And,
really nice.
And I can set up, hundreds and hundreds of rules if I want. It doesn't make any difference to it. But the rules are processed in order. So if you don't have any experience with a firewall that actually runs like this, the rules are processed on a first basically it's a what is it called, FIFO?
First and
Yeah.
first out.
Yeah.
So basically the first rule that matches the packet's gone. And that includes blocking. So if you have a block that is ahead of a pass, that's gonna break the traffic until you reset the order so that the pass comes before the block. And you can have situations, I've had that often, where you go, why isn't it working? And then you go, oh, because I have a rule way up above that actually blocks everything. And then way down at the bottom was my rule, oh, by the way, let that through. And by default, pfSense is what they call explicit deny any. So it works like most firewalls. If you don't put a rule at the bottom that says everything's allowed to go,
Right.
when it runs out of options, it just blocks it. It doesn't know what to do with it. It says, I don't know, go away. But so a lot of the time, as you can see here, if I go back to rules, you'll see that under LAN, there's one at the very bottom, default allow LAN to anywhere. So that's its way of saying, okay, we're assuming that if you've made it this far, you must be okay. So we're just gonna let you through. But you can even choke down on that. I actually, for one of my sub interfaces that's for my company laptop, I said, you're allowed to go through, but you're still only allowed to go to anything that is not the LAN. So you're allowed to go to any IP address block that belongs to anything that doesn't belong in my network, which basically counts for everything on the internet. So I just have, because you can also do inverse ruling. So you can sit there and say, okay, am I going to the LAN or am I going to anything that isn't the LAN? So you can do that. There's very, very interesting verbiage that you can use to kind of flip the rule on its head, depending on what you're attempting to block. And you have, one for every interface. Floating rules, I don't fully understand, so I'm not even going to bother getting into that. That's something I haven't even wrapped my head around yet. Aliases, these are really nice. So let's say you got a whole bunch of IP addresses for, like, say, printers, TVs, whatever. You can create a list of all the IP addresses in here And then when you go to build a rule, you instead of selecting an address or an interface, you can select that alias. So you can tie all of those things. It allows you to kind of bunch everything up into a little pile, rather than having to remember, oh, I've got 17 televisions and each of them needs a block list. You're going to say, here's all my TVs, all these get blocked. So that really is handy. Schedules, I've never really messed with this very much, so I can't really speak much on this, but I imagine it's a standard time-based thing. So you could say during work hours, you're blocking certain traffic. Now keep in mind, this is a IP firewall. So this is not, I want to block Facebook. In order to do that, you would have to block every address that Facebook owns. So that's where you get into more like the DNS blocking. This is strictly IP addresses. And that's where PF blocker comes in. PF blocker allows you to set up, like download a list like you would with Pi-hole and say, okay, all of these are bad IPs, do something with them. And then what it does, it loads them into the firewall in order to set up those rules for it. So it takes that extra step out of, okay, I don't know what all of Amazon's IP addresses are. Well, someone did the hard work for you and made a list. And then you just download that list and hit apply, and it takes care of it. And then it will automatically update it every 6 to 12 hours for you.
Nice.
Which is really nice.
It's still kind of, the interface is sort of like site by site, whereas opposed to like saying block sports sites, recreation sites, porn sites.
It depends on the list. PF blocker is a lot to go into, so I won't be able to do it tonight. But the idea is that it depends on the list. Some of them are specific in their thing. Like one might say, this is, because a lot of them are like someone's screen name, like a GitHub name, and it'll say like their ad list or their anti-porn list or something. And you can look at the list, and most of them are plain text. So you can look at it and you can even make your own. So if you go, well, I haven't found anyone who blocks this specific website, I'm going to put my own rule in. And you can even do bad IPs. So if you have like, for example, the Russia thing right now, everyone's hearing about all the attacks going on. I can just tell it to geo block anything that comes from Russia. And I can, I was joking with somebody one time. I said, putting a PF sense box in front of my cable is like putting 2 inches of armor plating on my network. It's, it might not be perfect, but it's going to take a big gun to punch through that. It's because if I'm just explicitly blocking Chinese and Russian IP addresses.
You're not going in.
Well, yeah, but but right there, it's the advantage is, it might not be perfect, but it's taking care of most of your drive-by attacks. Anyone who really wants in, that's not going to stop them.
You want to start out, you want to block out the North Koreans too.
Yeah. Should add that to the list.
All things considered, my logs usually had an awful lot of Ukrainian.
Yeah.
So, and then here you have the traffic shaper. So this is a QoS and stuff. If you want to split up bandwidth and things like that. Once again, a lot to go into. They have an excellent wiki, I guess you would call it. The PF Sense documentation is absolutely second to none. It's an extremely well written thing here. You can see it's got a numerous tables of things you can do. They even have a PDF version you can download. But you can see it goes through on every topic in here. Say you want to know about the traffic shaper. Boom. Here's everything you want to know about the traffic shaper. Here's everything about the traffic shaper. What can you do with a traffic shaper? So, they go into even assuming you don't even know what a traffic shaper is. Why do I want a traffic shaper? And they'll tell you right there. So you even have the ability of the it's not written like a stereo manual, it's written in layman. So you can say, but they do not include support for a lot of the plugins. The plugins are kind of used at your own risk. The plugin architecture is there because it's just the package manager under FreeBSD. But the packages themselves, some of them don't work flat out. I've had some that break and you go, well, this is junk, and you uninstall it because it doesn't do anything. So, and then virtual IPs, this is another thing where you can set up like, well, as it sounds, a virtual IP, an IP address within an IP address. So like, your DHCP address, but then you make like a sub interface, and you can say, well, my LAN is also this IP address. So say you have like a split subnet would be the way to think of it, because you can't assign two interfaces in the LAN configurator. It won't let you. It will only let you do one. So I can say, okay, well, for example, here, see IP alias. CARP is another thing, that's redundancy. But I can sit there and go like this, okay, local address, and then I can sit there and go 192.1.6, or not 172.16.01, and give it a 24 also. And then what'll happen here is now my LAN also can be reachable on 172.16.01. Or it should be. So,
Excuse me. May I interrupt just to make you aware there that the recording or the screen keeps focusing a lot?
Yeah, we know it's a problem with the camera. I haven't figured out how to stop it from doing that. So the resolution for that is show up at the meeting.
Sorry, got a lot of pain with the sciatic nerve.
Okay, well, this is all better as camera's gonna do, so,
Thanks, Rick.
yeah.
and then under services, this is where you have like the all, and I'm not going to go into any of these, but you have like DHCP relay, DHCP server, which is how you get address in your network. DNS forwarder is if I have upstream servers I want to send to. Resolver is if I want to use just the root with like a root hint, so I just want to ask the internet,
Mhm.
and then I can cache my own DNS. That's one way to stop. Whenever you hear about these VPN guys talk about, well, your ISP knows all of your data. Well, yeah, because you're using their DNS servers.
Mhm.
But if you don't use their DNS servers, they know less about you.
They would have to actually record and capture the data streams.
This
Or
here,
the
dynamic
IPs.
DNS, if anybody uses that at home, it supports dynamic DNS for setting up like no IP and Dyn DNS and all that. NTP for time servers, so you can set up a local time server in your network. UPnP for if you got any like game consoles that have complicated port forwarding, you can just let them just make their own connections if you want to. I think that's a horrible idea, but some other routers support that anyway. VPN, another topic that'll require another day, but those are your three options right out of the gate. And then status is all of your diag stuff. I can look and see like what's in my DNS cache, if there was one. Dashboard was this. And you can add all kinds of widgets to here, so you can look at things like interface status and traffic. And where's the traffic graph? Here it is. Traffic graph. So now look, I can look at that and see what's going in, what's going out, things
That's
like
nice,
that.
yeah.
You can add interface status. You can look at errors and how much packets have moved forward, things like that. And then diag, once again, depending on what you need, your options are in here, including your ping, top, halt, reboot, states. States are like what the firewall has actually got in its tables. So you can look and say, oh wow, that's why this isn't working. The firewall still thinks that's active traffic and it's blocking it. So you can say, no, reload yourself and clear out your cache. That's what all these have little, if you can see, all these have little trash cans next to them for deleting, line items. And then you can also from here using this, this is how you can get in, you can send individual commands to the shell if you want to, or the machine supports SSH right out of the gate too. So you can just pop in with SSH if you're just doing, but realistically though, you don't really need SSH with pfSense. Only if I do it on occasion where I've hosed the thing and I can't get into the web interface, so I have to go into the shell and restart one of the services, but 9.5 out of 10 never really needed the shell. And that's the idea. They don't really want you using the shell if you don't have to. If you've got a hard drive in there, you can grab smart stats. So if you want to know if your hard drive's dying, yeah, that's about it. Did anyone have any questions?
Good for filters for like denial of service.
Denial of service, I mean, you can, but that's where you want something more like a Cloudflare. somebody who has, because the only way to get rid of a denial of service attack is either to overpower it or go offline. Because a denial of service attack is basically just your website became super popular. all of a sudden. Your IP address, everybody's just targeting your IP address. So the only two things is either absorb all that bandwidth or vanish.
Well, I guess maybe more along the lines of like malformed packets, things that just tie up the system.
Yeah, exactly. PF sense, if you set your rules up correctly, like fragmented packets, for example, if you get things that are fragmented, there's actually advanced settings. And the advanced settings are, well, as the name implies, advanced. But you can set up things like under the firewall here to say, yeah, clear the do not frag thing. Assign random IDs to things. This is firewall optimization. And their documents go over this a little bit more, but there's situations where you may want like rules to live longer, states to live longer, because the thing flushes out as TCP connections get cut, it flushes out the state tables to free up memory. But this thing, I run a firewall at home with 8 gigs, and I can, do BitTorrent and run numerous machines and all kinds of other things, and it doesn't skip a beat. This thing's got 8 gigs already. So, but as you can see here, it's got other things for like VPN, and then if you want to, not that you really should, but you can, if you click this, you can just shut the firewall completely and just use it as just a router. So if you just needed a router to say terminate like your ISP's connection or something, and then just send the packets forward without filtering them, you can just kill the router entirely, or not the router, the firewall entirely. Same thing, you can say normally it'll add VPN rules to open up your VPNs. I don't want to do that. You can just tell it don't mess with my stuff. So, and then how often do we update things? And then here's like NAT and stuff. NAT is that was the last thing I'll show here. NAT is same as the firewall. It's pretty straightforward. You say, what do I want? Where is the interface? What interface does it apply to? What class of address is it? What kind of traffic is it? So it's a TCP, UDP, both. For most, I imagine most of you guys, these first 3, maybe these first 4 are going to be the only ones you're going to really care about. I would say probably, unless you guys are running some heavy duty networking, OSPF and stuff, probably not going to see much love. And then you can say, okay, what has to be the destination of that traffic in order to match the rule? And there's some of your options. Single host and alias will let you type in an address. Any is, well, pretty self-explanatory. Any's any. This right here, this firewall is the firewall. So whatever interfaces the firewall is talking to, there are situations where you may want traffic to kind of do like a hairpin turn in the firewall, or terminate to the firewall. An example of that would be even in the firewall rules, blocking ping. You don't want the firewall to respond to ping, so you block ping. You can block ping by saying ping to the firewall versus ping to something through the firewall. So the firewall can forward ping to say something that wants to do like heartbeats. It wants to knock on google.com every 5 minutes and see if the internet's alive, but you don't want someone going, hey, is that a firewall I see there? No, because it's not responding.
Firewall will pass that through.
Yeah, exactly. So and the NAT their documentation is fabulous. So if you ever have any real questions or problems, and then there's Reddit and Facebook groups that can help. So yeah, any more questions?
Looks really good. I think there's probably room for a few more talks on VPNs.
Oh, yeah. By far.
Yeah,
That would be it.
that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good.
A lot to take in. Yeah.
It's certainly a major advantage over what we had in the old days. I mean,
You could probably grab your FreeBSD and try to do all this stuff yourself.
You can, yeah.
Oh, it's a pain.
Oh, yeah, PF is, well, and even some of their tools, they actually built some shell tools like Easy Rule and stuff, which is what they use to build the rules
Mhm.
that get inputted, and they made it even easier for their own system. So what's that tell you?
Yeah.
You know,
Cause I
But-
ran PF Sense back, 15 years ago, and this is way
it
better.
it really is revolutionary when you realize that, this would have been, say, $10,000.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that long ago, and now I'm running it for not only free, but running it on junk. And you go, that's saying something.